Why do some people hate you? Precisely when you're doing your best to be kind. It's a paradox many experience in silence. You offer support, you listen, you show understanding. You're available, smiling, polite, and in return, you receive coldness, disdain, hostility, as if your light bothered them, as if your presence threatened something invisible yet powerful inside them. You start to wonder if you've done something wrong, if you're too much, too present, too available, too kind. And the truth is, maybe you are, but not in the way you think. Carl Jung, one of the deepest explorers of the human psyche, believed that no act is ever neutral. Every behavior, even the most noble, resonates deep within the unconscious of those who receive it. And down there, far from sight, shadows hide. Hidden parts, repressed parts, denied parts. And your kindness can awaken them. But what really happens when you're too kind? What internal forces do you unknowingly trigger in others? And why does the very behavior you thought would bring people closer end up pushing them away? In this video, we explore the dark side of kindness, to better understand others, but above all, to protect yourself. Since childhood, we're taught that kindness is a key. Be good and you'll be rewarded. Treat others well and you'll be treated well. It's a simple, reassuring formula, but dangerously naive, because human reality is far more complex than a moral fairy tale. Kindness isn't always perceived as a gift. Sometimes it's seen as a threat, as something suspicious, as silent judgment. Especially in environments where cynicism, irony, or emotional detachment have become the norm. Those who are truly kind, without hidden motives, without forcing it, emit a presence that can feel uncomfortable, not because it's arrogant, but because it exposes what others try to hide, their shortcomings, their coldness, their closed-off nature. Your kindness becomes a mirror, and not everyone wants to look. In a world where indifference is a defense mechanism, kindness can feel like a provocation. It can make people feel inadequate, exposed, and so, instead of gratitude, you receive distance. Instead of openness, suspicion. Instead of recognition, hostility. Those carrying unprocessed pain, emotional wounds, or a deep sense of inferiority might perceive your behavior as superiority, even if it's not, even if you don't mean it that way. The problem isn't kindness itself, but the expectations we project onto it. The belief that being good is enough to be loved, when in reality, authentic kindness sometimes makes us dangerous in the eyes of those who aren't ready to receive it. And that confronts us with a painful truth. Goodness guarantees nothing, but it reveals a lot about who you are. Carl Jung called the shadow that part of ourselves we don't want to see. Everything we deny, judge as unacceptable, or hide, even from ourselves. Fears, anger, envy, insecurities, repressed desires. Everything we've learned not to show in order to be accepted ends up there, in the shadow. But the shadow doesn't disappear. It lives within us, and it acts, silently, often invisibly, but with tremendous power. According to Jung, every human being is partly guided by their shadow, especially when they refuse to recognize it. And this is where kindness comes in. When you're kind in an authentic way, with no masks, no pretense, you do something extraordinary. You break the pattern. You step outside defensive behaviors, and by doing so, you shine light. A light that, in the eyes of others, can illuminate the very shadow they've tried to keep hidden. It's in that moment the unconscious reacts, not with gratitude, but with rejection, with suspicion, with hostility. Because you've accidentally touched a wound, your kindness becomes a mirror, and in the other person, emotions they cannot manage begin to awaken. Repressed anger, unacknowledged envy, guilt, fear of being seen. For Jung, only those who have made peace with their own shadow can truly accept the light of others. Those still at war with themselves often react badly, even to goodness. Imagine someone who lives in their own sense of inadequacy, who feels inferior but won't admit it, who fears judgment but hides it behind arrogance. Someone who doesn't feel seen, yet can't show their vulnerability. Now, enter you, with your simple way of being kind, of listening, of offering without expecting anything in return. What feels natural to you becomes for them a mirror that's too bright. Your kindness shows them who they failed to become, reminds them of the times they wanted to be kind, but chose to close off. It throws in their face the best part of themselves, the one buried under layers of cynicism and disappointment. And every gesture, every kind word, every silent presence becomes a threat, because it brings them face to face with their shadow. And when the shadow is touched, it reacts. So instead of opening up, they defend themselves, they attack, mock, dismiss, reject. They might talk behind your back, sabotage you, exclude you, because destroying what makes them uncomfortable is easier than facing their own discomfort. This mechanism is called projection. It's when the parts of ourselves we don't want to face, we throw onto others. And Jung described it as one of the deepest tricks of the unconscious mind. That's how your sweetness may be seen as fake, your interest as manipulation, your respect as weakness. Not because they are, but because the other person doesn't have the tools to interpret them otherwise. And there you are, wondering what you did wrong, when in truth, you did nothing. You just showed who you are. But the problem is, not everyone is ready to see who you are, because seeing you means seeing themselves. And not everyone is ready for that. It's not your failure, it's someone else's reaction, and it doesn't belong to you. But you must learn to recognize it, so you don't let yourself be destroyed by what has nothing to do with you. And maybe, the rejection you face is simply the price of staying true, of being real in a world that still hides. And every time you choose not to change just to please, you're choosing yourself. And that, in the end, is the greatest form of strength. We live in a world where harshness is seen as strength, where those who raise their voice dominate, where cynicism is labeled as realism. In this context, being kind is often seen as naive, or worse, as weak. But the truth is exactly the opposite. Being kind in a world that rewards selfishness requires courage. It requires self-control. It requires awareness. Because kindness is not the absence of strength. It is strength in the form of balance, of self-mastery, of intentional choice. Those who react with anger do so on impulse. Those who respond with respect do so out of self-mastery. And that is true power. Being kind without expecting anything in return, without trying to be liked, without trying to control the other person. It's an act of freedom, a silent declaration. This is who I am, even if you don't understand it, even if you don't deserve it, even if you judge me for it. Authentic kindness is a statement of personal value. It says, I won't lower myself to your level because I know who I am. And those who know who they are don't need to shout to be heard, don't need to hurt others to feel strong, don't need to win to prove their existence. Kindness, when chosen consciously, is not a passive act. It is a profound affirmation, a silent declaration of inner leadership. And maybe that's exactly why it scares people so much. Don't take the hatred you receive for your kindness personally. It often says more about the other person than about you. When you encounter hostility, step back into yourself, not away from yourself. Ask yourself, is this rejection really mine? Or is it a reflection of someone else's wound? Learn to recognize projection. Protect your energy. Be kind to yourself too. Don't exhaust yourself trying to be understood by those who refuse to understand. Your kindness is not a flaw to fix. It's a quality to protect. And if you feel alone, remember, those who choose light often walk alone at first, but not forever. Kindness can trigger unexpected reactions. It won't always be understood, welcomed, or appreciated, but that doesn't mean you should stop being who you are. On the contrary, it means you're on the right path, the path of authenticity. Keep choosing the light, even when it draws out the shadows in others, because your kindness is not a weakness, it's a rare form of courage, and those who carry it make more noise with silence than others do with anger. If this video resonated with you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs it, because even the truth needs to be protected and shared.